Hello, everyone. Welcome to Hope and Healing Chats, where we discuss everything dealing with sex addiction and partner betrayal trauma. Our goal is that these conversations assist you on your healing journey and help to restore hope. My name is Munifa Ellis-Addy. I will be your host. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, as well as a certified sex addiction therapist and a certified clinical partner specialist. I work at Banyan Therapy Group, where I help couples and individuals dealing with sex addiction and partner betrayal trauma for the past 7 years. But before we get into today's topic, make sure you like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Today's topic, we'll be talking about the holiday season and how sex addicts can manage during the sensitive time of the year. I have an expert with me. He is the founder and clinical director of Banyan Therapy Group. He is a certified sex addiction therapist supervisor and a certified clinical partner specialist supervisor and a certified clinical disclosure guide mentor. He has co-authored several books, such as the Full Disclosure Series, Building True Intimacy, Letters from a Sex Addict, and Healthy Boundaries. He is also a husband and a father to 2 amazing kids and 2 fur babies. Introducing my boss, mentor, and friend, Dan Drake. Thank you for being here today, Dan.
I'm so honored, Monique. That's great to join you.
So today's topic, I feel like as therapists, we already deal with people dealing with the holiday season being a triggering time in general. But with this specific niche of sex addiction, we've realized that it's even heightened so much to the point where we even wrote a book, Surviving the Holidays. Can you expand a little bit more as to why it's, extra sensitive?
I just think, one part of the book, we talk about this, that it's just like you said, it's such a sensitive, delicate time in general. And I find for most people, the expectations that people have of the holidays are almost never met in general. But it's a time of, where we celebrate time with family, or we have, these memories from the past. And I think after betrayal, the betrayed partner doesn't feel that way. They're still reeling from the betrayal trauma. The families, this time of togetherness and family is forever altered after discovery. It's just everything kind of erodes after betrayal. So it's just this extra pressure to do things. It's kind of some Hallmark holidays stuff comes into it, and it just becomes this really, I was going to say delicate, but it's even more than that. It's very fragile time.
You mentioned for the betrayed partners, how they're dealing with the betrayal. How about on the sex addict side? What is their experience like?
They're bracing for not knowing what's going to happen. I think they're often scared. They're often avoidant. They don't. So I noticed this along the way, and I'm sure you've experienced this too. When in one chapter in the book, we talk about this with gift giving. I've just seen this happen too many times to be coincidental. So let's just say people celebrate Christmas. There's traditionally gifts being given. Sex addicts give terrible gifts. They're inappropriate gifts, or they do nothing, or they try to go over. It's usually bad, whatever they try. So on the addict side, I think they're scared. They don't know what to do, so they freeze and they kind of do nothing, or they're not aware of what the partner might want or need. So it's usually a big miss, and I think they're just overwhelmed by it, or they're clueless. They don't really understand the level of how triggering this is for the partner, and they're confused by their partner's reactions. There might be trips to family, or all these other things that just get really messy. So I think I think they're kind of like in some ways deer in the headlights. They don't quite know what to expect, and they don't do much to prepare.
So then,
has that been your experience too?
Oh no, completely, completely deer in headlights, especially because they should talk to their partner, right? Because like you mentioned, they don't know what to do, so it can be very if you're a deer in headlights, and then sex addiction in itself is disconnecting. It's not intimacy. So having to connect with their partner to be like, what is it that you want? Do you even want a gift? How do you want to go through the holidays this year? It's an intimate conversation that it can be a struggle.
It definitely can. I almost feel like it's sort of this, you can't see me mentality that's somehow like that. They're like, maybe if I avoid it won't be a thing. There's some of that thinking, I think, happening, that if I don't bring this up, we'll just sort of get through this and it'll be okay, and I'll pretend everything's okay. As opposed to being proactive, which I think partners would really appreciate, being intentional
Mm-hmm.
and proactive and thoughtful about it. Even if it's to the point where I'm I'm really nervous about the holiday season. I don't really know. I want to make this special for you. Do you want gifts? Like the things you just said. Do you want a gift? What kinds of how do we navigate this? What are the traditions we're going to incorporate this year?
Yeah.
Having
Do we
all
want
those
to see your family?
conversations. Do we want to do? Yeah,
Yeah.
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 Do we want to see certain family members? Do we want to keep it? What's the level of what we're gonna do this year? So they don't have those conversations and proactively oftentimes, which is devastating for the partner.
Yeah. Because they're managing the trauma of it all. So then, and they already felt alone, prior to discovery, most likely. And then now, after discovery, they're managing the trauma. And then you don't want them feeling further alone by not having those
Right.
conversations.
Or that the partner has to be the one leading the charge with this. They're the ones
Mm.
leading the conversation, or they're the ones specifying what the boundaries might be, and even what the addict's recovery might look like during the season. So, or let's say maybe it's discovery's fresher. Maybe they're even in a therapeutic separation of some kind. So there's all these kind of, what does that look like? Who are we seeing? What are we telling the kids if they've got kids? I mean, it's just it's messy.
Would you suggest that if they've had things in place like check-ins, um, like how do we maneuver check-ins, especially the addicts is, when you did this, it reminded me of playing peekaboo with kids.
Yeah, right.
Like they feel like, oh, object permanence, they no longer exist if they just cover their faces. So if they're to step, like let's say they've been doing check-ins and then now we're in the holiday season where things are more sensitive and they're trying to play peekaboo. Like, do we just keep the check-ins as scheduled? Do we do it even more? Like, what does that look like?
I think even more. I mean, I'm a runner. I like to run, and for me, when I get to a hill, I don't, so a lot of people slow. It's daunting to go up a hill. I actually speed up.
Mm.
I start to
Mm.
speed up. There's something mental I do that's like, okay, I'm going to use this momentum. I think don't wait till we're in the season when it's already stressful and chaotic, and let's say during some sort of kids off school or during a break. Let's do this. Let's meet this proactively and be way more intentional. I think kind of speeding up, meaning like being more proactive, more intentional. If the check-ins, we might need more, especially if they're going to be around family, and especially if family's triggering, which we know can happen. Who was told, who wasn't a part of it, how does discovery and all this kind of play out? The couple needs to be a safe haven together if they're going to do anything with family. And yeah, I think way more intentionality around check-ins. Maybe we alter what it's going to look like during this season. We may add more frequency or more kind of length to the check-ins, or specific items we're adding to the check-in, for
Which
sure.
reminds me of the quote, failure to plan is planning to fail.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So without that proactiveness, it's, avoidance. Basically, when you're avoiding something, you end up running right into the same thing that you were trying to avoid the whole time anyway.
Yeah, and I would say for addicts, like, there's in some ways, don't be discouraged. It in some ways it's a no-win.
Mm.
Your partner is going to be triggered. It's going to happen. So if the success for the holiday season means your partner's not triggered, we're sunk. That's going to happen. So how do we meet those triggers and be expecting them and be as proactive as we can with them? Um, and even if you're trying to do something right by bringing this up proactively, it still might trigger the partner. Like, I don't want to be dealing with this. I hate the fact that we have to be proactive and intentional about managing triggers in the holiday season. So you still may get, you know, backlash for doing the right thing, but avoiding it is, I mean, I don't know your experience, Monifa, but over and over and over again, doing nothing, like you said, it's going to be way worse, and not being intentional, it's going to go way worse.
And you brought up something really important, the fact that sometimes it's going to be a no-win situation. I think a lot of times at sex addicts, they're like, I did the thing. Like
Right.
I checked in, I did the conversation, but they were still mad. It's like, yeah, this is not a formula where 1 + 1 is 2. It's like it might equal 0 a few times, and then maybe sometimes it equals 0.5. Like it might
Right.
not even necessarily equal 1, but the whole point is the process, the fact that you keep showing up, because then that's going to speak volumes rather than just avoiding it.
Right. Totally. Yeah. And this, especially, hopefully, the more, if this is someone's first holiday season, it's going to look different than the second and third or fifth or 20th. You know, there's just a different post discovery. Early on, it's an intense time. It just usually is. So give it some time, give it patience, give it grace. And of course, the addict needs to do their own work and be regulated themselves. Because if they have these expectations, I know I've had plenty of clients who have expectations. Oh, it's this romantic time and we're going to have sex or something, on Christmas or whatever. Don't expect that. Like maybe if your partner's up for it, but we can't have those kind of expectations of what this is going to look like. Have to have a lot more patience and grace and, respect and honor of where the partner is and their level of trauma and healing.
And in giving their partner that grace, or just even this, giving themselves also, because it's triggering for them also, because it can, if those expectations don't get met, then it could lead to feelings of rejection and not being good enough and all those things. So is now a good time to ramp up on the support system?
Yeah, yes. Thank you. I actually had forgotten. It's not uncommon during holiday seasons or vacations, let's say, that addicts take vacation from recovery. Like, I want a break too.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. I do get it. Like, who wants to, if you've got your workout regimen or your morning routines or something. I get it's pretty understandable that someone would want to take a bit of a break from it. This is not the time, though. This is definitely not the time. This is the time. Keep the routines that are working for you. Like, keep those things going. But you can't take 2 weeks off from this and then expect it to be going well, especially during a really triggering time. So yeah, I definitely think so.
And I even see that because I feel like my caseload gets lighter around the holidays.
Or usually yes, or there's the crisis, catastrophic, horrible situations that people go through, that something bad happened. So, but yeah, I agree. I think people want to, and again, I get it. You want to take a break. It's so heavy, it's so difficult, and the partner probably does too.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
But if the partner is already triggered and then they see their significant other, the addict, taking a break and then, not doing the things that were helping keep them safe, let alone the partner safe, like that's going to be even another trigger for the partner to see.
What are ways that they can keep them safe during this holiday season?
Their partner or themselves?
I guess both. I was thinking more the partner, but I'm like, that's actually, not a bad question.
Well, at first I think it starts with self. You have to take care. I have to, the whole cliche. I have to put my own oxygen mask on before I can put the mask on someone else. I have to take care of myself. I have to make sure, if I'm going to be safe and supportive of my partner, I have to make sure that I'm grounded and regulated myself. So whatever I need to do, if that's, again, I think keeping up someone's routines, most addicts have some sort of recovery routines that they do, check-ins with their sponsor or their team, or doing recovery step work or meditations, or whatever their kind of recovery routines are, keeping those going. You can modify. I mean, it doesn't mean you have to do as much, but I think doing something consistently and keeping it going, so that you can, if I'm dysregulated, I'm not going to be able to be supportive of my partner. So keeping that going. Safety, I mean, do you understand your partner's triggers? Do you have a sense of what is their wounding? A lot of times, you mentioned one big one earlier, Monifa, about being alone. Most partners, after betrayal, they feel utterly betrayed. They feel alone. So what does that look like? How do we stay connected, not isolating? How do we be like centered and intentional about quality time? What are your partner's love languages, and their kind of what's going to be, what hasn't worked? I mean, when you notice your partner gets triggered and upset with you, what's typically going on? What is happening there? Can we be mindful of those and try to do something different during this season? It could be choosing what activities we do. Or where we're going. I mean, especially if it's early on, it's not uncommon where there's a lot of difficulty with extended families. So where the the betrayed partner, some people just don't understand, friends or family don't understand. First of all, if people have been told what their reactions are inconsistent. If they haven't been told, your partner is going to be feeling, they're going to be around potentially your family, and they're going to have to hide how they're really feeling, or they're, that's a lot to ask. So part of safety, I think, is maybe we do something different this year. Maybe we're not doing something and being in triggering environments around unsafe people or family. Maybe we opt for that, and that's a big gift that you can give. So I don't know, every situation's different, but though I think being really proactive with what your partner needs during this season is vital.
And you just touched on something about, the partners around the addict's family and how triggering that can be for them. Well, what if it's the other way around? What if the addict is
Yeah,
around the partner's family? Let's say the partner's family does know.
I've had people, depending on where their step work, maybe that's the time for an amends, or
Mm,
they don't want to do it sometimes because they feel ashamed. And I understand. I mean, who wants to walk into a situation where you feel like it's a no-win situation? But I mean, I guess that at the end of the day, so do work on your own shame resilience, I guess, is the starting place. And if that's where your partner needs to feel safe during the holiday season this time, double down your efforts, and don't avoid it because you're threatened or scared of going into the situation. I mean, that's going to create even more difficulty.
yeah, which kind of goes back to what I was mentioning before about just showing up. Yes, it's a
Yeah.
difficult situation. It's going to be uncomfortable, but just showing up for your partner and seeing what they want to do. Like, what? No, don't avoid the situation altogether, even though that
Or
can be very tempting.
totally. Or
Yeah.
maybe there's something that we, maybe for part of it we split up for us part of the break. Now, that said, I feel the kind of energy from partners being like, it doesn't feel safe. Like I'm leaving or
Mhm.
you're leaving, we're seeing family separately or something that can be really triggering too. So, I mean, I think being really, again, intentional and have a conversation about this, what feels safest. But sometimes partners just want to be around their family, have that relief of a safe place to be without having the pressure of all that other stuff going on with the relationship or the addict.
And as we've been talking more about couples. But what about if there's a therapeutic separation or working through divorce, but we have kids? So how do we manage all those things?
It's again, intentionality, conversations, being proactive, set it clearly in writing. That
Mm,
might sound stupid or obvious, but I can't tell you, right, like how many times have we worked with people that it seemed like there was clear from both people, seemed like they had agreement, and then days or weeks later the memories shifted and like we're not on the same page. So having these things in writing. What are we communicating to the kids about this? What's age appropriate? That's a whole other huge
yeah,
conversation to
that's
have,
another episode. That's
right? But I mean, I guess if so, you're saying if they are doing something separate this season,
yeah. Do we and I guess this goes back to, yes, like you said, having intentionality and communication, because at the end of the day, if there are children, the focus is the kids.
totally,
So,
yes, make it about the
taking yourself
kids,
out of it.
totally. And I think and I'm just gonna say something to both. If for betrayed partners, um, revisioning, like we don't have to decide this
Mm,
year what our traditions are, how we're shaping it. Let's just think this year. We're gonna get through this year. We can decide
yes.
what our ongoing traditions might be in the future. We don't. I just take some of that pressure off. If this is a time where you don't want to have to celebrate anything, that's okay too.
Oh,
So just giving
yeah.
yourself permission, a lot of space for grieving if need be, or taking a break from some. I mean, whatever. I guess giving a lot of space for the partner with this if they're doing their own thing. Um, Addict, what they can do, being really, really clear, really intentional about what the recovery program and what their plan is. I don't know, depending on therapeutic separation, a lot of times that would be communicated, in a therapy session or shared with a partner. But I think having that clear and being proactive, if let's say it's not going to be a surprise if someone's traveling out of state to go visit a family member. If the addict is traveling, that's going to be triggering for the partner, even if they're on a therapeutic separation. So
Yeah.
what's the portable program going to be looking like? What's your intentionality? All those things can show, being proactive with that stuff can show I'm taking my own recovery very seriously, and I'm taking my relationship and my the needs of the partner really seriously. Because I again, it's what you don't want is when it's the partner saying, okay, well, what's your plan when you're there? And then the
Mm-hmm.
addict says, well, I was just going to do this, and that, or I don't know, what do you think I should, it's like, if you're waiting for your
Yeah.
partner, we don't want that.
Yeah.
That's not safe. That doesn't build safety.
Yeah. Um, which also made me think of traditionally, if we are talking about a couple, the things when it comes to kids does tend to fall on the betrayed partner.
That's true.
Because they're the ones keeping the holiday spirit and organizing and all of those things. So if we're keeping along the theme that I keep hearing of intentionality and being proactive, it would probably be a good idea to maybe lift some of that off of the partner and take on some of the not even traditions, but take on some of the holiday cheer if that is the route that we're going with the
Mm-hmm.
kids.
Yeah, and I guess that's what is the. Um, I always like the idea of come up with a plan, like your intention, and then checking
Mm.
that with does this work? And I want to try and take this on. Is that helpful for you? Does that make things, because sometimes partners will be like, I'm so overwhelmed, and I just need you to do something, like whatever it is, and if it's like some of the cheer stuff, gift giving, let's say, or if they're maybe they can get some gifts for the kids and be more proactive about doing some of that stuff, or running errands, or setting up stuff. I do Most partners, I would imagine, they're already going to be triggered around family time and family stuff. So I'm assuming they're going to want to have the kids around because they don't want that taken from them too.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm assuming that's going to be the case. But I mean, I would defer to the partner. But I think you're right. Being proactive around what will help this. Um, and I guess I'm thinking success, but not success meaning, like, I think addict success might look different than that. We're going to get through this in as safe a way as possible, where hopefully the partner felt supported and safe, and and was able to maybe enjoy some nice moments and then also some painful moments. I think that's what we can expect from this.
And in addition to that, for the addicts to know that what you just said, that experience of, maybe there were some good moments and, felt as supported as possible, knowing that that might not come up until hindsight.
True.
While we're
And
in it, it might look completely different. It might look like this
totally.
is all going to hell. But
And don't expect
yeah,
attaboys either. I think that's another thing. Like,
yeah,
if you're doing it
yeah.
so that you're like, oh, I'm really showing up this year, and you're needing that support from your partner, don't expect that. Get that from other people
Hmm.
in your support team. If you're don't expect your partner to be your cheerleader during this season. Like, we really got to get that met elsewhere. And great,
Yeah,
stepping up. That's amazing. That's amazing if you're stepping up in a new way, and hopefully being more present than ever with your partner and the family. But yeah, don't expect the kudos to come from the partner.
yeah. And if the kudos even come, it may not be to like the following holiday season
It
where
may still
they're
be anger, and it may still be
Mhm.
withdrawal. I mean, it might be a lot of things. You might not even get see any of the dividends that might be there. But
Yeah.
like you said, I think planting seeds for, if you do the right thing, it's not going to go unnoticed. You may not get the validation of it, but the partner's going to be seeing, oh, you're showing up. You're showing up in a different way. I see that. Or
Yeah,
you're
we'll
doing more of
we'll
the
keep
same.
going.
You're doing more of the same,
Mm.
and that's also information.
That's yes, that's actually a big point because lots of times we look, I guess this goes back to the concepts we talk about often, which is process versus content. So
Right.
the content is, maybe they're doing the check-ins, but then they're not actually checked in. Like they're being
Right.
distant. They aren't really initiating it. Maybe the partner's still the one initiating it. Like they're doing the things contextually on the surface, but then there's the process behind it. There's information in the process.
Right. Or check-ins are, it's the addict's responsibility to initiate the check-in. They're happening pretty inconsistently,
Mm-hmm.
or this is the other thing too around boundaries, and don't expect boundaries to change without conversation about it. I mean, that might sound obvious, but we were on
True.
vacation. I thought we weren't checking in, or we're around each other more. I thought we weren't checking in the same way we were prior to the holidays. Like that, those assumptions can be lead to a lot of landmines. So being, again,
Mm-hmm.
intentionality, being having, okay, here's what our check-in schedule looked like before. Does this work for this season too? And maybe the partner's like, no, I don't want to do that level of check-in now. Great, okay, fine, but at least
Yeah.
you've been proactive with it.
And in addition to that, because we're talking about the stress and the anxiety and the tension, things might actually be flowing well because it is the holiday season. Maybe,
Oh,
partners
right.
feeling good. But then at the same time, going back to your point, what you just said was that doesn't mean we lighten up on, what we've been doing. The partner could be doing this because maybe they are trying to keep it together for the kids. Maybe they just want to enjoy their holiday season and don't want to think about it. But at the same time, still having those talks, still having those check-ins if they want it, like not just assuming like, well, everything was going well, we're doing good, so therefore I don't need to show up in the same way I did before the holidays started.
Right. That's a good point. And I've also, this takes a lot of addicts by surprise that, let's say it is flowing really well. One moment, the next moment, the partner
Mm.
could be incredibly triggered. So the same moment might have both. So, I mean, let's just say it's all going well, great. But sometimes it could have both. And that can
Yeah.
be really confusing for a lot of addicts. They're like, I thought we were having a really beautiful time. But understanding that is the case. But the beauty of this moment is also in the partner's mind, they're always thinking, oh, they, it, either when's the other shoe going to drop, or this is such a beautiful
Mm-hmm.
moment, but it reminds me of all these other moments I thought were beautiful, and now they're all tainted because of what I just discovered. So it's all this mix of it can be beauty and grief at the same time, which is confusing for everybody. But it's that's where I think slowing this down as much as you can, and maybe not doing other unnecessary things or grand gestures too. That I have to say that too. Addicts sometimes they may either go on one end or the other with gifts, like do nothing, or go with these big sweeping, like we're going to plan this huge thing, whatever it is, or get this massive gift just as a way of kind of overcompensating. And I don't know, unless that's what the partner wants, usually that's a miss, because it's like
Mm-hmm.
they're trying to come swoop in as a hero, and that's not usually going to work in this kind of setting.
And I know we had mentioned gifts before, but is it safe to say like the general idea with gifts is just talk to your partner
Talk
and
to your
see
partner.
yeah.
Which, and I don't know for what you'd say. Yes, talk to your partner. I found when I've talked to some partners, they're like, I want to be. They'll say something like, well, he gave these gifts to acting out partners. He was so thoughtful with those, and I want him to be thoughtful with me. I want, like there's this grief even with the gifts, like knowing, let's say there
Mm.
were gifts given somewhere else, or I don't. I've already feel like I don't matter to you, or I'm not special. So having to spell out what I want and need feels really like I want you to know what I want and need, and really invest in me. Totally makes sense, but I've just seen that being a recipe for pain and disappointment. So at least for now, I mean, I like, if I'm working with the addict, I will be working on those things, like being more thoughtful and intentional and noticing, and helping your partner know that they matter. But I'd rather have it be spelled out. This is what I want and need from, if the partner can communicate that, that will create so much less disappointment than the shot in the dark. The person's trying to get the appropriate gift and they don't know what to do. So yeah, I think so.
Huh.
I understand that's not nobody's. Well, maybe some people. I think people want to feel special with gifts, and that you're given the gift you want to get, but that you didn't have to communicate. Like, someone could read my mind and know this is exactly what I want. Yeah, it just doesn't usually work out that way.
So what would you say to sex addicts if the partner does say, what you just said, which is basically, no, I want you to tune into me and know what I want. And, you know, sex addict is looking for some clarity. Like, how do they respond to the situation?
Great. And it does happen. I'll go back. So, and this might again sound so obvious, but what are some things that what does your partner like to do? Are there some hobbies or some things that are special? What makes your partner feel special? Are there some
Okay.
things that you could do? You know, let's say I don't know. Well, first of all, don't expect to give lingerie or something a romantic gift. I would not do that unless your partner's communicated that. I would not
Yeah.
go into do that. Um, that's just doesn't go well. So, are there activities or things that your partner enjoys that you could contribute something towards that? What are some? Have you noticed your partner hint at something, or that
Mm.
have you seen them? I don't know. I will. I was going to say be careful too around appliances and things like that. I was going to say if there's things you think your partner might need, if it's appliances, and if that's not going to probably go over well either.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, would you say if it was an intentional, thoughtful, let's say they're trying to get a sweater or something, I don't know, and it's a total miss. Is that, do you think it's worse on the partner side for the addict to have tried and really swung for the fences and missed with the the gift?
I believe so, as long as it's not something over the top like lingerie
Right,
or, something regarding sex or like a weekend getaway
right.
to, something where it's like over the top or something dealing with romance or something like that. Like if it's something like a sweater, like they know that you love the color yellow and, they saw this yellow sweater and that was what they tried. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe the partner hates the cut of the sweater. At least it was a yellow sweater. It shows that there was some thinking, and it all goes back to the theme of intentionality. Like there was some intention. Because what I liked about the list you just gave, have you noticed them mention anything? Was that they like? What have you seen them gravitate to? All that expresses intentionality and connection with your partner,
Hmm.
even if it
You're
is a myth.
noticing, right?
You're noticing something, you're paying attention to them, and that's what really matters.
One other thing too is it may be as good of a gift as possible, but it could still be triggering for the partner. So I just want to say that too.
Mm,
Like, oh, but you
mhm.
were so again, you just knew exactly what to give for your affair partner, and you don't even know that I don't like this cut of a sweater. Okay, I mean that could
Yeah,
happen. That's
yeah,
theoretically possible. And then
mhm,
then you're in it there. You do AVR. You're acknowledging, validating that it's a trigger. It makes total sense. If you can show up not defensive or like pouting because your gift wasn't received, okay, that makes sense. So we can go in there. So it could be received well.
yeah,
It could not be received well, but that's all okay. It's all part of it,
you
and that's okay.
tried.
I guess that's you tried, and then we keep getting back up, and we keep trying more, and hopefully the clear intention and the clear noticing and all those things that you're trying to do to help your partner feel special, the partner may not receive it right away because it's the thing we want the most is almost the thing that's most threatening. So I'm going to kind of push
Mm,
it away until I know that it's actually secure and safe. Don't expect to get the validation yet, but hopefully over time, the more you continue to do that, your partner will see it and respond over time. But it's
and
right.
it's important to point out, like you said, it might not go well, but it's also a chance for repair.
That's
So
true.
doing the AVR and, well, acknowledge, validate, and reassure, and trigger busters and everything else that you've been learning thus far in treatment. Now is the time to try it out. And granted, it still might not give you the result that you're looking for, but at least now it's a time to practice.
Yep. Totally agree.
Awesome. So, with that being said, if we were to sum up this whole thing, intentionality, X being intentional with their partners, having those conversations, being proactive, having the conversation about gifts, travel plans, kids, how we're going to do this, having their own support system intact, if not even more so. Um, I mean, does that kind of sum up
I
everything
think
as far
so.
as?
Yeah, it's hard to talk. We're talking big picture, and every
Yeah.
situation's different, of course.
Yeah.
So I mean, if people have a coach or a therapist, like bring this up with your, do this ahead of time. Let's plan for it. Don't get caught off guard. Prepare. We know typically, traditionally, November and December, we're in that kind of season. So
Mm-hmm.
don't wait till end of, oh, it's week of Thanksgiving, for example, depending on where someone is out here in the States, but whatever the special holidays are, be prepared ahead of time and practice and be proactive.
Yeah.
Talk with your team. There's
Yeah.
probably a lot of good feedback you can get among a safe, trustworthy team that gets it and understands betrayal trauma.
Yeah. You're not the only one going through this.
Right.
So yeah, tap into everyone. Well, thanks, Dan. I really appreciate you joining.
I'm so
Um,
happy to be here with you, Monifa.
If you want to reach out to Dan or me, our information is in the description. And if you also want to know more about this information, this topic specifically, we do have a book, Surviving the Holidays. So this book is available on Amazon. The link will also be in the description. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. We will be having episodes weekly. Next week, we'll be discussing the same thing, but now from the betrayed partner's perspective. So thank you for joining us. Embrace your healing journey. And remember, every step forward brings new hope on your journey.